Hi, I'm Jack Baruzzini, and you're listening to The Secret to Stargate, where we talk about the hidden meanings and deeper layers found in the Stargate movies, TV series, and more. And joining me today are Jeff Haecker. Hello, Jeff.
Yeah.
And Lisa Jones. Hi, Lisa.
Hey, Jack.
And Victor Lams. Hey, Victor.
Hi, Jack.
Today we are discussing the 12th episode of Season 9 of Stargate SG1, Collateral Damage. Colonel Mitchell is accused of murdering a scientist on a planet where they have recently developed a technology where memories can be implanted. He vividly remembers committing the crime, but his team believes that he has been framed. They investigate, and eventually we uncover that the scientist's estranged husband was the actual killer. He implanted the false memory into Mitchell's mind and erased his own. And that's the episode.
Well, I mean, it's not, that's the final twist of the episode in the last 5 minutes.
Yes, no. All out of whack now. My computer's going crazy.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on this episode, Jeff?
I like this one. It's not one of my favorites of the season. There's definitely, I think the next one is one that I mentioned in our 200th episode that I really like, and I think I've liked some of the other ones better than this one. It's still good. I still enjoy it, and I forgot how they really kind of get into Mitchell's character and backstory, and his memory of this mission that went awry that they had to use in order to dig out the false memory. So I like that aspect of it. My only thought that I had was they're letting the leader of the premier team get hooked up to an alien device without, presumably there's been testing off screen. That's how I'm headcanoning it, but still, I feel like you can't have your leader of your team who has however high level of clearance hooked up to these memory devices. You just don't know all that could go wrong. So I know that's a nitpick, but I thought of that and I couldn't really think of it. Kind of derailed my viewing of the episode. And I had a thought that it could have been more interesting if they had gone with that plot line of Mitchell becoming compromised due to memory and having him be in danger of losing command of SG1 or even being, removed from the Stargate program because of that. So they could have done something like that with that I just had that thought as like, that could have been a more interesting, but I mean, overall it was an okay one. I thought it was enjoyable and, and decent for the season. So.
What about you, Lisa?
I really did enjoy this one. And I will say that if you just look at the plot, if you read it out, longer than what you read, but like if you read it out, you're going, wow, that's not very original. It's things you've seen before. You're not, it feels like it's predictable. But what really saved this episode was that it was just very well done. I enjoyed it. I liked getting to know Cameron Mitchell a little better. And the twist was a twist on a twist, so of who done it. And then, I don't know, there was just everybody, the stakes at this, you really felt for Cameron Mitchell. Not that, early on, they decided, okay, you might have done it, you remember doing it, but we're not going to prosecute you. But then they're like, okay, just go home with the memories of murdering somebody. So yeah. I thought it was a really interesting moral question, both in the memory implants, and I'm with Jeff, like you have to overlook that whole, you would hook him up to this device. But the idea of the morality of him giving him these memories and then not removing them or not wanting to remove them. And then at the end, when you find out who did it, the way that he is not punished. So it's just, I found it really interesting. I had a lot of things to say after I watched it.
Yeah. What about you, Victor?
Yeah, I was prepared to be really annoyed by this episode. I didn't remember it. We open with, Colonel Mitchell, ? Bludgeoning a woman brutally to death. And I hope you like seeing women getting brutally attacked and bludgeoned to death, because you're going to be seeing that clip a lot in this episode. And then within the first, 5 minutes, they're like, we have this technology that can implant memories. And you're like, oh, now I got to spend the next 40 minutes just watching this play out in slow motion. And then, of course, William Atherton is the guest star, played Walter Peck in Ghostbusters, Thornburg, and Die Hard and he was in Real Genius, you're like, ooh, that's the bad guy because he always plays slimy bad guys. And he's totally slimy in this, but he is so perfect because with just a look, he can convey so much. And so you're like, oh, well, now I have to watch 40 minutes as they figure out that he's the bad guy. And then there is that twist at the end. So I thought that was very nicely done. I was like, I'll just trust Joseph Malazzi. He always puts a twist in these somehow. and you know, it pays off in the end. And again, there's a lot of William Atherton in this episode, which I really enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
I did not see the twist coming at all, which is good.
Yeah.
That means you've done your twist well. And I like the explanation as to why he would even help them. Because that would be like a big plot hole, but no, they took care of that well. This is probably my favorite episode of SG1 that we've had in a while. It was very, very character focused on Mitchell, and you got to know a lot about his background, like his relationship with his dad, and also his mission that went very, very poorly, which kind of gave it an emotional tie into what was going on in this story. But it was funny at the beginning that it opens very abruptly with that horribly violent murder. Like, I actually checked as I was watching. I was like, did I accidentally turn on like CSI or Law and Order? Like,
yeah,
I was like, no, this doesn't feel like Stargate.
It didn't originally open with that. It originally opened with them in Varric was there and Varta's office as they're explaining the technology, but they figured the episode needed a better hook and lead in than that. Yeah. And so they just played the flashback of the murder to start us off.
And it worked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And before I forget, the really cool thing about the flashback scenes, both that and then some of the Mitchell flashback scenes from earlier, is director Peter West actually brought in his own Bolex hand crank 16 millimeter film camera from the from the 50s or whenever. And so the flashback scenes they actually shot on film as they're like hand cranking to get, different speed up and slow down effects. And so all the flashbacks have this really, kind of old film look, and it's not a filter they put on it. It's actually old film and an old camera that they're sitting there holding in their hand and moving around and hand cranking to get that effect. And so I thought that was
that's cool.
Yeah, I thought it was really cool.
I liked the technology that the aliens have. I feel like we've seen this in other science fiction, and they've even talked about this like in real life, like this idea of implanting memories. But the whole process they go through when they're trying to recover the memories, because they think that they can prove that this has been spliced into Cameron Mitchell's memory.
Mm-hmm.
It reminded me a lot of EMDR therapy, which stands for it's eye something.
It's eye movement something.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. It's a therapy that's used for processing traumatic memories and traumatic experiences. And the way it works is, I've actually done it. And the way it works is you put on like headphones and then you have like a noise, and you can also have like these vibrating paddle things. You have it's like biofeedback basically on a bilateral like left and right side. And you have to like all up the traumatic memories. And as you're doing that, you're like walked through them, kind of like what they do in here. And the biofeedback like helps your brain reprocess it. It sounds very, very hokey when described, but it actually works like really well. That's kind of what this made me think of with calling up the old memories of his family to kind of give him like a baseline and then having to reprocess through the events.
But you probably can't fast forward, rewind, pause, zoom in, and enhance like they can in this episode.
Yeah.
I expected one of them to say, now zoom in, enhance on that face. Can you clean it? Can you clean up the image a little bit?
I think they actually did, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is basically the plot of there was a Voyager episode, a Star Trek Voyager episode in like season 1 or 2 that was very similar to this, where it was Tom Paris who had kind of a relationship with an alien woman, and and then her husband or something was killed, and he was blamed, and he had a memory of it. So there was a very similar thing. So it reminded me of that, but I do think this was done better than that, and this had more. I felt like had more stakes than that did.
There's also a Deep Space Nine episode where O'Brien commits some minor transgression and is given the memories of 8 years, I think, in prison and murdering his cellmate for food. And then at the end, I think they do finally erase that memory from him. They go back to the planet and say,
no, they don't.
They don't?
No,
okay.
Yeah.
That's just
he
my
has to
head.
live
That's
with
just
it.
okay.
Because
That
that's
seems
what
fine
people,
next time we see him, though.
That's what people talk about. It's
Yeah,
like he would have like horrible PTSD from this, and then the next episode is just back to work.
Nog, that's not a spanner.
He went to space therapy.
Yeah. Yeah. He tried plexing, I guess, and that fixed it.
Yep. That's also actually a thing that they teach you in therapy. And this episode made me like Cameron Mitchell a lot more because you get to know more of his character. Like I haven't disliked him so far, but he's I don't know, he's kind of gotten on my nerves a little bit sometimes, just feeling like he's the not Jack.
Well,
But-
if he's been a little over the top, a little hokey.
Yeah.
Remember the whole, what was it, grandma's religion and kind of all shucks, all of that. And you were just kind of waiting for him to settle into the role, just settle down, figure out who you are and just be that. And we got this, really emotional kind of a deep story that they didn't know about. And you got to know him a little better. And his father was a fighter pilot, lost his legs. It was really interesting how they created his backstory.
Mm-hmm. And his acting here I thought was really good. Like he played like haggard and just disoriented really well. Him and Warren Kimmel, who played the husband. I thought they both did a really good job. Like, especially playing off of each other, where initially the two scientists, they want to help because they also believe that the memory has been implanted, but when they're initially not able to find any sort of splices in the memory, and he thinks that Cameron Mitchell actually did it, like that was all played very well, and I feel like they worked well with each other.
Because Dr. Merrill and the murder victim, Dr. Varick, had been married or still were married, but separated for 2 years when she shacked up with or whatever. What did the kids say? Hit it off? I can't remember, but
I don't know.
Netflix and chill.
Trip the Light Fandango or something with Cameron Mitchell.
Cameron Mitchell got to pretend he was Daniel Jackson or Jack in this one.
And they were mentioning on the commentary too that like the forums did not like this. I thought that Mitchell was kirking, like hooking up. Yeah. That's the word, hooking up with whatever beautiful woman they find on these planets and stuff.
Well,
kind
of was.
And and apparently, I guess for whatever reason, Ben Browder was kind of uncomfortable with the makeout scenes as well. So I don't think that comes through on the screen, but.
I don't think he has a lot of storylines like this where he is like Kirk and romancing alien. There's one kind of relationship that happens later, but it's a little bit different. So I'm glad they didn't really because Jack did that in early SG1 a lot, and Shepard's kind of doing that in Atlantis sometimes, as we'll see in the next Atlantis episode we cover. So I'm glad they didn't. It's funny that this happened, and Atlantis was kind of a similar thing of a little bit of a romance with an alien. So I've noticed they like to do that. They have very similar themes in their episodes that were aired together. I don't know if they were just it was in the writers' room like, oh, that's a good idea. Let's just do that over here too. And I know there might be some crossover there, but.
Do it twice.
Although, we'll get to it in that Atlantis episode's case, the guy who plays Shepard, Joe Flanagan, actually co-wrote that episode. So he may have had... Oh, wow. He may have... Yeah.
Well, think about it. When Christopher Judge, didn't he write one of the episodes with the female...
Paul.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jolene Blaylock.
Just saying.
Yeah. Yeah. And so this planet's kind of interesting too, because they say that they were once conquered by the Goa'uld, and this memory technology is based on Goa'uld technology, but they were an Asgard protected planet too. but they don't have, there's no Celtic runes or anything anywhere. So at some point, the Asgard thought that they were worth protecting.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm. I thought it was interesting that they were the reason for the memory, being able to put memories in other people, because you're immediately thinking this has no valid good purpose. This is just all kinds of bad things could happen with this, as it did with Karen Mitchell. And then they explained that they were using it to learn, to help people learn faster, pilots, things like that. And you're kind of like, man, I can see that. Okay, maybe a valid purpose. But then you're not really surprised at the argument at the cocktail party or whatever that was. Oh no, the military is really going to use it for evil purposes. But I immediately thought, when they first talked about using it for learning, I immediately thought back to Learning Curve, the episode, SG1 episode with the children.
Oh, and the nanites, or whatever.
With the nanites, yeah. And then they learn. Remember, I forgot the little girl's name, Meryl or something, where they come and they just learn, and then they go back and then they take the nanites out and give them to everybody else. And then, and I thought, how did that work out for them? I don't know. So
yeah. And so there's a lot that's implausible with kind of the main conceit of this episode, the memory device. I mean, it's not like the Matrix where you plug them in and then suddenly it's like, oh, I know Kung Fu. I know how to fly a helicopter and stuff. All you would get is the memories of someone flying a plane, which would be kind of like those videos that they used to make for kids, which is like ride in a fighter pilot and you get to see the fighter pilot, fly through the sky and stuff. It wouldn't give you like the muscle memory or anything that you would need to actually fly a plane.
Well,
it could help with like the book learning side of it though. Like if you tune the technology, like if you develop it enough, you could get through, years of academic classes and whatnot very quickly if they could do it where they could actually retain. But yeah, they wouldn't have, like you said, they wouldn't have the muscle memory. So I could see it being good for, for that side of things. But yeah, you probably need, for training doctors and surgeons and, other things, you need to have that muscle memory as well.
Yeah. But the sort of military applications are what drive Emissary Varta's, William Atherton's characters, motivations through this. And so what I like about that is like at any moment in his performance, and I watched it twice so I could watch the commentary, it could be that he's evil and he murdered, Dr. Varric and his reactions make sense in that. Or it could just be he's trying to protect his project and doesn't want these people poking around in top secret information. When you watch his performance again, there's no giveaway either way, what it is. And so it's really artfully done in both the performance and the writing.
I think that's what made it enjoyable to watch, is that you knew there was a twist. You knew it wasn't Mitchell. You knew it was a character that you're seeing on screen who really did it. And there's a cover up and all of that. But they did it so well that you really, I know I'd seen this before, but I did not remember that's who did it. And that he erased his own memory, and I did not remember any of that at all. So I just found it very interesting. And then the fact that they didn't punish him was mind-boggling.
I was say they could have pulled the memory out of Cam and put it in the guy, and then but yeah, like you said, they wanted to protect the project, so like let's just sweep it under the rug so that we can make the technology work. And so yeah, that's probably why they didn't do that.
Yeah, and the way they did that with, like, he's not going to get punished. He's still culpable for it, but he doesn't remember it all. So how does that work with like his culpability? I mean, he kind of, this whole chain of events is because he did that, but it's just interesting to think about.
How do you punish someone who doesn't
remember what they did?
Remember that they did? Well, I guess you could look at somebody who there are people who don't remember their crimes, or it happens and they still get punished. They still did it and they still get punished. In this case, they know he did it. So I guess I was really struck with the immorality of it. Yes, your project is precious and he's a scientist, but to not even, tell him he did it, or to have some sort of, my problem is now that this guy has it in him to create do a heinous crime and cover it up and not only cover it up, but pin it on somebody else very well, and then erase his own memory. So he was really good at this. So what's to stop him from doing it again? That's in his personality. He got away with it.
I think though it was the passion, it was a crime of passion more or less about his wife. So, if he doesn't, as long as he doesn't have an ex-girlfriend or, something or a relationship around, everything might be okay.
So let's walk through how he actually carried out this crime too. So he comes across Mitchell and his wife, getting jiggy with it. And he has a Zat gun of some sort. He zats Mitchell. Then he puts Mitchell on his shoulder, runs out of the house, takes a taxi to the lab, puts Mitchell in the chair.
Yes.
But before he can implant the false memory, he has to take it out of his own head. So he doesn't put Mitchell in the chair. He sits in the chair. He takes the memory so he attaches everything to himself because there's no other doctors there. He takes the memory out of him, and then he takes Mitchell, who's still unconscious, and puts him in the chair, attaches everything, calibrates, gives him the memory, then detaches everything, takes him out of the chair, then sets up the machines, sits back down in the chair himself, puts all the stuff back on, or maybe he takes Mitchell back to the thing first, and then he comes back and sits down and erases his own memory. So this guy is this guy's really good because he can A, operate the machines that haven't really been tested all by himself, and B, he's strong enough to carry Mitchell all over the city.
And it's a long process.
Yeah.
And at no point did he say, "Oh,
what am I doing here?"
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe I shouldn't do this.
Yeah.
No. Which is why I'm really upset he didn't get punished.
Yeah. Your comment earlier made me think of the saying, never mistake a poor memory for a clear conscience.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah.
It's true.
Or words to that effect.
The more you think about it, the worse it gets.
Yeah.
Also the fact that he didn't attack Mitchell, he killed his wife.
And then he's added
really
Mitchell or something. Yeah.
But he didn't just leave it with no one knew what happened. He set him up. He implanted that memory in an innocent person. I guess he wasn't so innocent probably in his eyes because he was cheating on his wife with her.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, the house itself, the house set was pretty cool. That actually is a $7 million mansion that belongs to some pro skater, or did. I don't know which pro skater, but they mentioned that. And the pool in the back is actually part of that house. And the night scenes were filmed at night, but because it was filmed in the summertime on the shortest nights of the year, which up in Canada are 4 hours of darkness, they actually had to start filming those at they were filming at 3 a.m. Those night party scenes. Yeah. And the interior night scenes and stuff too.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Working long hours.
Yeah. All for vermicelitude or vermicelitude. However that's said.
It is also funny that we get most of the rest of the team. We haven't even talked about Jack or Sam or Teal'c.
Yeah.
They have nothing to do in this episode. It's just Cameron Mitchell.
Well, Daniel, Jack's not there.
Yeah.
Daniel.
Sam's kind of his patient advocate, it's he wants to do this, do it. And then Mitchell does thank her afterwards, for advocating for him and stuff. And then Daniel Jackson, and then the last couple of episodes, he's just there to kind of make a smarmy comment. And Teal'c basically says, we should stand over here now or something. He doesn't have a lot to do.
Yeah.
And the director even said that Christopher Judge has the best job in show business because all he has to do is come out and say 2 lines and get paid, series star money for that. But
that's funny. I thought about that when I was making notes for this. I thought, wait, what were the other 3 doing? I don't remember.
Yeah. Jackson and Teal'c were presumably going over the case, which not being familiar with the law or how their technology works, but they did look at a thumb drive and saw that there were, pieces missing. And then, emissary Varta says that's top secret information. I can't let you see that. And they're or maybe you're the murderer or something. So, again, it was served to cast suspicion on William Atherton.
Mm-hmm.
But
they did go back to Earth
Yeah, they did. They had a couple briefing room scenes.
And it is funny that there's no, like, obviously we're glad that Cameron Mitchell his name is cleared and he's not responsible for this murder, but I feel like you'd still get in pretty big trouble for fraternizing with the scientists of a planet that you're trying to have diplomatic relations with.
Who hasn't done it? Come on.
Yeah.
I mean, Jack's in charge of, presumably a lot of,
Yeah.
he's high up in the military, and he's done it, So,
Yeah, he gives bonuses, I guess.
and Sam has, and Jackson has.
Yeah. He was drinking that super powered, like, alien whiskey or wine or whatever it was, too. I don't know. That's not an excuse. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just one of those things that
He's got to go with.
No, I just it's like a trope. It just happens all the time in these shows, right? Like you meet the sexy guest star, and you're like, okay, let's. Remember, I think Daniel, like years ago, his wife died in one episode, and then the next episode he was going off with somebody. Remember that?
Yeah.
Like let me call Sarah up and see what she's doing.
Yeah. Speaking of sexy guest star, she has the distinction, Anna Galvin, of being on all 3 Stargate franchises.
I thought you were talking about William Atherton at first, but you're talking about Anna Galvin.
Galvin.
That's cool, yeah.
So she was on SG1, Atlantis, and Universe. So I don't know if she's the only one who's been on all 3 as a guest star. Yeah.
Nice.
That's
I think Daniel and Sam showed up on Universe too for a couple scenes.
Yeah.
So, but not like a full. I think they might have only been in the beginning or the pilot episode of it, and then maybe a couple others here or there.
But as a non-main character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that we get to see his dad at the end.
Mm-hmm.
That was good because I was just bracing myself that one of his like memories was going to be his dad dying or something horrible happening to his dad, and it was really nice that they show him at the end, and he's still a double amputee, but he's up and walking, and you've got a good heart to heart there,
giving good pep talks.
Yeah,
loving and supportive father.
Yeah. And they did a good job with the visual effects on removing his legs in the first initial hospital scene too.
Yeah, I kind of like the idea of, I kind of headcanon that Mitchell, after the mission that went awry, when he was considering leaving the Air Force, that's what led him into getting into like the F-302 program, because he was maybe expressing like, I don't want to be involved in, combat or with, other humans, or I don't want to be in the position like that again. And, someone's like, well, we have this F-302 program that, you should train for, which ultimately led him to SG1. So I kind of like that, maybe that's why he ended up in SG1 in the F-302 program.
Yeah.
They should have a way to like turn off bombs after you've dropped them. Like disarm them or detonate them in the air or something. That seems like it would be really handy. Maybe that's just not a priority.
Yeah, we didn't mention explicitly, but his
flashback is he's in one of the deserts, Storm or Shield or
probably Gulf War.
Gulf War or something. Yeah. And he has a visual confirmation on a target and thinks that he's only going to murder like someone they consider to be a terrorist. And so he drops a bomb on the convoy, and they're like, "Oopsie doodle, we made a mistake. You haven't dropped that bomb yet, have you?" And he's like, "Oh, you know what? I just did," and like blows up a convoy of refugees instead. But yeah, murdered the wrong people.
If you think about it, it was I'm going to use the word good memory for him to have.
Yeah.
It contrasted nicely or complemented nicely what he was going through, and that something happened and he was exonerated for it. They decided he wasn't court-martialed. I mean, it wasn't his fault. But people still died. And so when I forgot what the planet was called, but when the people who implanted the memory in him.
Galagans or whatever. Yeah.
Galaga?
Yeah, Galaga.
When they said, "Oh, no sweat, we're not going to prosecute you, you're fine. Now just run along home with that memory." It was a very similar memory in the way that they said, it's not your fault, but something really bad happened. And yeah, you've got to live with this memory of murdering people or killing people. So I thought that was, I wasn't sure what memory they were going to have him pull out. But I thought that was, I hate to say a good memory, but like it worked really well in the episode.
Yeah.
And in his character development.
And for the title too, because that's the collateral damage, right, in war when you kill innocent people, oopsie. And as well as Mitchell himself becoming the collateral damage and kind of this crime of passion and the machinations of the militaristic government on this alien planet.
Yeah, no, it was probably my favorite episode of season 9 so far.
Yeah, and I was just thinking, did they mention the Ori at all in this episode? Or was it like, it was almost like it was a completely standalone, traditional type of Planet of the Week episode with no mention of the Ori or anything like that? And there's not many of those in the season, in these last 2 seasons, because obviously you're fighting the big bad. So it was kind of a nice throwback to some of the earlier seasons of SG1.
I think that's one of the reasons it worked so well too, is that it was a standalone. It was a Planet of the Week, kind of episode.
I think I used the memory device to wipe out my memories of the Ori because I completely forgot about them until you just mentioned them.
That's what I was gonna say. Like if Mitchell's singing the Cherries, like, now one last request: can you make me forget completely about Vala?
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, Daniel would be like, no, I'll get in the chair next. Let's go.
Yeah. Give me all of your memories of Vala.
No, I meant the other way.
To wipe it out. Yeah.
Awesome. Do y'all have any other thoughts on this episode?
No, I think we covered it. It's a good episode, but like I said, I hope you like watching this poor woman get beaten to death because you see it a lot. It's a very violent episode. I mean, it's the first one where, the kids were in the room playing their Switches and stuff. And I was almost like, I was fast forwarding a little bit, just like they don't need to see this poor woman get her brains beaten out over and over again.
And you're right. That is something that's unusual for Stargate.
Yeah.
The first many, many, many years, it really wasn't violently graphic. And we've had a few of them. I mean, in the last couple of years that have been more so. And this does rank up there. I guess watching it, if you don't think that it's Stargate for a minute and you just think about compared to what you see on TV on a normal basis, it doesn't, I hate to say it doesn't seem that bad. Yeah. Like you said, if you're watching, Criminal Minds and CIS, CSI, like any of those kinds of shows.
Galactica, which is on at the same time.
I almost thought it was too much, to be honest.
It was, yeah. It really was. The fact that they kept showing it over and over again.
Yeah.
I don't like this.
Granted, it was artistically filmed on a hand-cranked Bolex camera. I will give it
like a snuff film?
Yeah, exactly. Like a snuff film. Good one.
Low quality footage of someone being murdered. I don't think that makes it better.
No, it really doesn't.
They didn't talk about that on the commentary.
No, they didn't. I'd been watching a lot of snuff films at the time, and I thought, hey, I direct for a top 10 sci-fi show. I should. Anyways, that's my only comment.
Nice. Awesome. We do have some feedback on our episode on the Four Horsemen. Prof. McCoy,
like the doctor.
Got a G in it though.
The G is oi.
Learn something new every day.
Yeah.
Prof. McCoy says, How Sweet and Strange is a perfect encapsulation of Orland's role in the series. I really like his character, the sad puppy full of ancient wisdom. With his repeated self-sacrifice, he is one of the more noble ancients we meet. Also, the gods who draw their power from worship trope is one of my least favorites, especially because so many people get the impression that it's how classical paganism worked. This idea is no older than the 20th century. And speaking of watching these episodes post-2020, maybe they could have asked the Ashen for help. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they knew who the Ashen were.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can only see them making things worse, though.
Yeah, using it to their advantage.
Yeah.
I love what he said about Orlin. That really sums it up. I mean, so well. That's exactly what Orlin is. It makes me, I don't know, think better of Orlin.
One of the good ones. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of brought his character arc around and redeemed it. So I like that. Awesome. Well, before we go, we would like to take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create The Secret of Stargate, including Mary K., Carolyn R., Jamie K., Thomas W., and Jeffrey M. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue The Secret of Stargate and all the shows at StarQuest. You can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give, and be sure to follow the show on Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and find our video versions at youtube.com/StarQuestMedia. Find previous episodes of Secrets of Stargate and to send feedback, please visit sqpn.com/Stargate. You can email us at stargate@sqpn.com and follow StarQuest on social media at facebook.com/StarQuestMedia or on X at SQPN. And we'll be back next time with the next episode of Atlantis Epiphany. Until then, Jeff Haecker, thank you for joining me and sharing the Secrets of Stargate.
Thanks, Jack.
And Lisa Jones, thank you as well.
Thanks, Jack.
And Victor Lams, thank you too.
Thanks, Jack. And remember, she wanted you to know that the troponins were negative, but the CK and myoglobins were up. No, wait. The myoglobins were negative, but the CK and troponins were up. No, wait.
Is this like the post-ganglionic nerve thing?
Yeah.
And once again, I'm Jack Baruzzini. Thank you for listening to The Secret of Stargate on StarQuest.
Gotta love Walter.
Yes.
Yeah, we do.
He is the best.
Anyway, I'm sorry, but that just happens to be how I feel about it. What do you think?